starved, physically and sexually abused, shoved in tight spaces with dozens of other people. Those are the inhumane conditions the feds say they're finding migrants in across Albuquerque. In the last year, local and federal police uncovered what they're calling a surprising number of stash houses in the city. Homes and apartments where human smugglers hide people they help enter the United States illegally, on their way to a new life in the country. In a KRQE investigation, Amperet shows you the federal investigations and asks why Albuquerque is now a main hub.
Hey, open the door. Open the window.
Albuquerque police with guns in hand outside this single-wide trailer yelling at a suspected smuggler who, after he spotted them, police say, closed the curtains. Parts of the video are blacked out because of who's working the case and what they find once inside. The APD report shows detectives were led here on a tip. A Mexican woman is being held against her will.
You gotta be packed in tight.
Yeah, there's more in the back room. I could see their heads up in that window.
Inside the trailer, police locate 60 people believed to have been smuggled into the country illegally, including children and their victim.
That's the girl we've been looking for.
The suspected smuggler is arrested outside the home here. His criminal complaint shows the young woman told investigators he threatened to kill her if family didn't send more money. But even after they did, she says he didn't let her go. She also shares the other women and girls were sexually assaulted, beaten, and starved. The abuse escalated if they didn't cook and clean for members of the smuggling organization.
The air vent where all the girls were, the stuff was stuff. So no things coming in.
All these people are sick.
APD uncovered a stash house. Detectives call in Homeland Security investigations to take over. This is now a human smuggling case.
The conditions in these stash houses are egregious and shocking to the conscience. I would say most people could not fathom.
HSI's Deputy Special Agent in Charge, Jason Stevens, says since October 2022, his Albuquerque office has been dealing with an unprecedented increase in stash house discoveries.
So I was surprised. I know historically that hasn't been a thing here.
Caught off guard, he had to get help from other federal offices. Stevens and U.S. Attorney Alexander Ubaez believe it's only going to continue.
Cartels have really pivoted their focus, and the majority of their profits now come from human smuggling enterprises and no longer from narcotics.
A change he says his office is paying attention to.
It used to be that we required a certain number of migrants in a load or in a house in order for us to charge. We've completely reoriented that to focus on danger to the community, to risk, and to connections to transnational organized crime.
With that threshold, Ubaez says not every so-called bad actor faces charges.
Our effort has really changed to focus on those who make profit off of, the absolute misery and desperation of these migrants.
In December, Bernalillo County deputies respond to a call about multiple people jumping out of this semi-trailer.
There's a car pulling out too.
They end up arriving just in time to catch a suspected smuggler.
Hola. Licencias.
Records show this man from Venezuela admitted to receiving $4,500 and 2 rifles to drive that semi up I-25 from El Paso with 51 people in the back, including 3 teenagers. HSI agents removed them one by one from a basement apartment. The criminal complaint says 47 of them were hiding behind this bookshelf. And it's noted this is one of multiple trips that month the truck made between the two cities. The man is charged with transporting illegal aliens, among other federal crimes.
This is the next stop for anything coming out of El Paso, Las Cruces, Deming, even sometimes Douglas, Arizona. We're getting loads from Arizona that come up as well. There's least resistance in New Mexico than there are other states.
What he means by least resistance, Deputy SAC Stevens explains, is less enforcement.
So you have Texas DPS that's working right. You also have the state troopers that are working it. The same in Arizona, there's additional pressure applied there, and you've got the National Guard that's there. Well, in New Mexico, you've got your Border Patrol resources, and that's it.
Beyond that, he says Albuquerque's an ideal stop with its two interstates, I-40 and I-25.
Questions that come to my mind is, could this be a problem? And my answer is yes. We want to make sure that we're not behind the power curve, and I believe we already are.
Sheriff John Allen says with his deputies responding first to a lot of these calls, he's working to develop a training on how to identify the suspect immediately to protect the people being held in a house or vehicle.
We need to separate them. We don't want people being re-victimized who are just trying to come here to have a better life. It is an issue. I don't want it to become a crisis.
The U.S. attorney says people smuggled here do not typically face criminal charges for illegally entering the country, but that doesn't mean they all get to stay in the U.S. He says some are flown back to their home countries, others seek asylum and get to stay, and a handful stay because they become material witnesses in the case against their smuggler. Ann Perrette, KRQE Investigates.
Human smuggling is a multi-billion-dollar criminal enterprise for cartels and human smuggling organizations, according to the U.S. Border Patrol. As part of our investigation into this issue, Ann Perrette traveled to the border to speak with the agency and find out how people are smuggled in. We'll have that answer and a first-hand account of a group's journey to the U.S. next week on KRQE News 13 at 5:30.
More and more people are finding their way to Albuquerque illegally. The feds say smugglers sneak them in. We've reported on the unprecedented increase in stash houses discovered throughout the city, where those people are kept on their way to other parts of the U.S. Now, KRQE investigative reporter Ann Perrette is asking how hundreds are making it across the border to Albuquerque.
It's 6 on a summer morning in Sunland Park, New Mexico. We're joining U.S. Border Patrol agent Fidel Baca. The earlier, the more active shift, he says, with temperatures still manageable.
The Santa Teresa Border Patrol station was the busiest station in the sector. I think as of right now it sits at second, but it's constantly been. Even earlier in the year, it would be top 5 in the nation.
It's part of the El Paso sector, which includes parts of West Texas and the entire state of New Mexico.
So we're approaching the border wall right now.
Agent Baca says while they see people climb the wall every day, all day, this mountain, Mount Cristo Rey, is utilized for entry because the wall doesn't run south of it. While looking up, his fellow agent spots a suspected smuggler.
He sits up there all day and he sends groups down all day. There he is. He's moving.
Using a cell phone, he says, to give those trying to cross directions based on where the agents are patrolling.
All this is organized. You know, you cannot come in illegally to the U.S. without paying what is known as some type of quota.
A fee, often thousands of dollars, paid to those smugglers.
Mostly fear is what leads people to hire smugglers. Not only are they fleeing from their countries due to fear, persecution, harm, threats, but also the fear of crossing to the U.S.
Anna Trio with the New Mexico Immigrant Law Center says many people consider smuggling safer and quicker than the legal entry process.
We know our immigration system right now is very broken. It is very, very backed up.
Meaning it can take months to even get an appointment through the potentially difficult to access federal government app, which she says can force people to wait at the border in what can also be unsafe conditions. When they do get that appointment, Trio says they need to prove credible fear.
So it's very subjective to the hearing officer, immigration officer, on if they decide if your fear is credible enough. Just saying it's horrible in my country and I decided to come to the U.S. because it's better, that's not enough.
Plus, she says it's important to cross the border because you have to be in the U.S. to apply for asylum.
They're gonna have 2 bodies.
We're called to respond to an illegal entry.
Oh, no, they're right there. They're right there.
Our photographer runs after the agent, and when they get through the brush, the group turns around. The agents say they're coached to run, but another responding team is there to cut them off. They're brought to the patrol cars where agents pat the 3 down. Then, Agent Baca asks some questions for me.
Are they okay?
¿Cuánto tiempo tiene?
Nah, they're in good health. They've been up there about 2 hours.
Were they meeting up with the smuggler?
¿Qué le dijeron, jefe?
So the instructions that they were given was to keep going straight, passing the main road, and that they were going to get picked up at 1 p.m.
That's typical, the agents say. That pickup would have taken these three to their first of many stash houses on their way for the married couple to Minnesota, for the older man to New York State. All three previously tried to enter legally, explaining to the agent they paid 5,000 pesos to someone who promised a visa but never gave them one. So they resorted to this and admit it wasn't their first time getting caught. So how did Border Patrol spot the three? Using motion sensing and infrared technology. One type is similar to a doorbell camera, providing a dispatcher with a photo.
They did tell us the number. They can tell us what they're wearing.
That camera isn't visible, but these autonomous surveillance towers are. Using artificial intelligence and combined with the other equipment, they can provide the direction a person is headed. But even with extra eyes, Agent Baca admits people do still get past them, which is why Albuquerque is discovering so many stash houses.
It's a three-pronged approach.
Okay.
We need a good combination of infrastructure, technology, and manpower.
And recently, he says, the agency's been so overwhelmed with people crossing, manpower is hurting.
So what's going to happen is that we're going to move agents from the border to our processing facilities to care for these people, so then we're going to have less agents on the border.
Records show highway checkpoints struggle with manpower too. So when staffing is low, cars are waved through without an inspection. A green light smugglers pay attention to. Beyond that, the smugglers are calculated, Agent Baca says, sending a group of moms and children through on one side to distract agents from a separate group entering miles away.
Like I mentioned, this is all organized crime.
At the end of our time together, I'm still thinking about the three caught. So I ask.
They looked just distraught, upset, defeated.
Yes.
That got to me. What's that like for you?
It doesn't affect me, and let me tell you why. I take them to the stations and I see the records that come back. Murders, people that come with convictions of assault on children. I'm not going to sit here and tell you, everybody has a record. They don't. A lot of people, they are looking for a better living. They are looking to send money back to their families. The thing is that we cannot, as a country, know what's trying to come into our country.
Ann Perrette, KRQE Investigates.
In the last year, the U.S. Border Patrol reports more than 420,000 encounters with people trying to illegally cross the border in El Paso or New Mexico. The agencies also found more than 3,600 people in 281 stash houses across the sector. Agents say smuggling organizations are recruiting American teenagers to drive people smuggled into the U.S. up to Albuquerque or other parts of the country, a dangerous job that has led to a handful of deadly crashes this year.